We turn our attention to River State, where the Kwere Emoha, Obiakpo, and the Leme local government secretariats were set ablaze on Monday morning, the day the newly elected local government chairman and councillors were supposed to assume their office. The attacks occurred shortly after the police had reopened all the 23 local government council secretariats in the state, month after they were sealed following the crisis that erupted after the expiration of the tenure of the immediate past chairman, who were bent on staying beyond their tenure. Some persons were said to have been killed, while several others sustained various degrees of injuries with property destroyed. This is, however, not the first time violence of this nature has occurred in River State. A similar incident occurred in 2014. Well, to discuss the aftermath of the election in River State, former Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the APC, Timmy Frank, and former Commissioner for Housing in River State, Gift Wolu, joins me live to discuss the intrigues of politics in that state. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me at this time. Well, I'm hoping you can hear me. Let's begin with you, Mr. Timmy Frank. I'm sure you have been monitoring what has been going on in River State. Let's start with your position on the just concluded polls. Would you say the election was as transparent as it should be? And what would this mean for grassroots development in Rivers?
Well, first of all, let me tell you thank you for inviting me, and let me use this opportunity to congratulate all the participants in the local government election, and also congratulate the governor for being very democratically, and he has shown that he's truly a believer of democracy. Is a believer of democracy, democratic process. He has shown true leadership in River State, and he was able to conduct free, fair, and credible local government elections. So we commend him for that.
All right, so Dr. Wolu, I also want to get your own opinion on that before we proceed. We saw the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar saying that election was an affirmation of constitutionalism and the rule of law. What's your position? Mr. Frank said it was a free and fair election.
Thank you very much for having me. I'll tell you, without any form of equivocation, that there was no election in River State on the 5th of October. What happened on the 5th of October will pass as a rehearsal for a Nollywood film that is about to premiere. Now, people talk about democracy, and most times I find it difficult to appreciate the fact that people who ought to know, because if for nothing, they have been participants in the process and they have gone to school, still don't understand what democracy is all about. Let me tell you this. Democracy is about rule of law. It's about the people. And politics is about the welfare of the people. That is why it is said that the welfare of the people is the supreme law. Now, if you had what you had in River State on the 5th, and what you got at the end of the day was the killing of people instead of jubilation, if what you had was destruction of property, and people who were not here in River State, somebody staying in wherever, I don't know where Atiku Abubakar is. I don't also know where Timmy Frank is, or where they were on the 5th of October. I was here in River State, and I can tell you that there was no election in River State. There couldn't have been an election ordinarily if the governor of River State, who was elected on the platform of the PDP, was providing leadership in River State. The people of River State gave their mandate freely to the PDP. And it happens that somebody has to be flag bearer and, of course, governor. And because of what is clearly a failure of leadership today, since the governor was elected about 1 year plus ago. All that has been heard about and from River State is crisis, killing, destruction. And I can tell you that this is because the person who is supposed to be the defender of the law, the person who is supposed to promote rule of law, is a lawbreaker. There was a court judgment asking the River State Independent Electoral Commission and all those who were involved in the lawsuit brought by the APC to stop the election, to not go ahead with the election, because certain procedures and processes of the same democracy that people talk about were not followed. Yet they went ahead to hold election. And today, we are talking about congratulating people for what?
Dr. Wolu, I'm sure you're also aware of a court judgment that gave, a local state government 3 months to conduct the election. There have been speculations about the influence of, the federal might against the state might in this issue. So I'm wondering why you're saying there was no election on that day. People came out to vote, the election was counted, and the violence you're talking about was after the election.
Why do we reason like this in this country? The federal government went to court to seek interpretation of the law concerning autonomy of local government. And at the end of the day, the courts were very clear. They said, if you don't conduct proper elections to get people elected into offices, we will not allow for allocations to get to the states. And then, of course, before then, everybody knew that caretaker committees in local government was not allowed. But our governor, as a lawbreaker, went ahead to form caretaker committees and then went ahead against a court judgment. Because there is no one court judgment that says that people can no longer go to court. After the pronouncement by the federal government, people went to court. The APC in River State went to court to challenge the process leading to the local government election. And they got a ruling, they got a judgment saying you cannot go ahead with this. But because our governor has become a serial breaker of law, he went ahead to conduct election in the manner that he went about it. And what did you get at the end of the day? Like I said, instead of people jubilating, the governor even came out to say that he was a loser in the election because his own party did not participate. So he was a loser, and then all of us lost in River State. Today, what we have is a situation where even what has been done, I believe, it's only a matter of time, will be set aside. And all the money spent conducting that charade called the election will be a waste on the people of River State. I just hope that a day will come when people will have to account for the things that they have done or failed to do. So you don't ask me about judgment concerning the federal government. That judgment did not say that if you are holding local government election anywhere, that there shouldn't be process.
All right, Dr. Wolu, you are accusing the governor of being a lawbreaker. I'm trying to understand if maybe that was the reason why you resigned as the former commissioner earlier this year. But before you answer that question, let's go back to Mr. Frank, the former Deputy National Publicity Secretary. Mr. Frank, let's talk about the role of the police in all of this. The whole essence of the police should have been to, anticipate the situation, considering the political atmosphere ahead of the election. Would you say there were victims in this situation, or they exacerbated the situation?
Well, let me make it very clear to you. The case of River State today, you can see the police, the Nigerian police force is biased. The Nigerian police force is one-sided. The Nigerian police force practically has become an arm of the APC. I was listening to my brother and friend who was speaking over there when he was talking about the issues of the crisis, the governor being, responsible for the crisis. For God's sake, the whole world has seen today that Fubara is a man of peace. The whole world has seen that Fubara believes in due process. So if you want to say today who is the person behind the crisis or responsible for the crisis in Rivers State, it is very clear that the minister of the FCT, who was the former governor of Rivers State, who is still passing through pains of not being in charge of Rivers State. So what they are trying to do today is show of force. The Nigerian police is meant to be police for the people, but today is now police of Wike. They are using the police in Rivers State as of today to torment and harass every one supporter of Sim Fubara in Rivers State.
Mr. Frank, I would prefer that, we exercise restraint while mentioning some names. No. That's an accusation that he would need to prove. But you can just state what you're trying to say.
He was mentioning the name of the governor. So for me, the truth needs to be told. We know who is responsible. We know who is behind.
You might as well just state your case without mentioning names.
Okay, fine. So, as I'm telling you today, it's very clear that the Minister of FCT does not want peace in Rivers. Him and his people are doing everything to truncate democracy in Rivers State. And what is happening today in Rivers State, my sister, I must tell you clearly, is a disaster. The people of Rivers State are fighting against the government at the center, because when the government at the center has created an opportunity to intimidate a governor, and you want the governor to keep quiet. For example, the same day Rivers State was doing their own local government election, every other state, a few other states, was doing the same local government election. There was no crisis in those states. But immediately after the election in Rivers, you saw what happened. They refused the truly elected people, that the people of Rivers State have elected them from their various local governments. They refused to allow them to resume in their various offices. And at the end of the day, we saw what happened. They went and burned down 3 or 4 local government headquarters. Up till this minute, no one person has been arrested. Is it that the police or the intelligence system in Nigeria does not know those behind the bombing of
Mr. Frank, I'm sure you know that the president has already charged the Inspector General of Police to begin an investigation into, all of this. But before you respond to that, let's quickly go to Mr. Walu because of our time. Mr. Walu, in calling out all the parties in this matter, you would expect that arrests would have been made and possibly the cells would have been full right now. Why is there little or no noise about, apprehending suspects?
Now, you asked me an earlier question about why I resigned. The reason I resigned, 2 reasons. First is what I called then a toxic environment that existed in the cabinet. And then I also talked about arbitrariness on the part of the governor. Now, if you are a member of cabinet, the commissioner, I'm sure you will not be happy if you hear about decisions that ought to be taken in council. You hear it from the radio or television. For example, the day the Rivers State government went to pass the ill-fated budget that they gave to the Okojombo Assembly, I heard it on radio. It was supposed to be a council affair. And at that point, I felt that perhaps I was no longer needed and I had to throw in the towel. But that's by the way. Now, you're talking about arrest and police being sided and all of that. Has the police arrested anybody over the burning down of the Rivers State House of Assembly? And that when government becomes a lawbreaker, it breeds contempt for law and invites people to become laws unto themselves. And it invites anarchy. And I'm telling you that because of the fact that perhaps we made a mistake as a people, because ordinarily, who should be governor? Who should be leader? The leader, according to Plato, is the man who is the wisest in the room. And I can tell you very clearly that that man who is the wisest man in the room is not the current governor of Rivers State. He has shown that clearly because he is not able to absorb contrary opinion. He's not able to ask questions that help him to gain insight into what is happening. He claims to know everything. But as far as I'm concerned, A wise man doesn't say that he knows everything. After all, according to Plato, he is wise because he knows nothing. And of course, a wise man is able to create a vision and lead the people to action. As we speak today, there is no blueprint for the running of River State. What you have is a situation where about 2 years after becoming governor, the governor is still going around telling people that he's the governor of River State, which shows that it is not clear to him yet that he has a responsibility other than running around telling people that he's governor. He used more than 3 months to hold Thanksgiving celebration after the Supreme Court judgment that declared him winner. And then he was doing all of this with the same people who said that he was not going to be governor in the first place, members of the APC and all other allied parties. Today, he has left the PTP, on which platform he became governor.
Like I said earlier, if you can hear me, I would like us to speak to the matter and not really, point accusing fingers at anyone.
You cannot take the mandate. You cannot take the mandate of given to the PDP by Rivers people. You now transfer it to APP, and you form a movement of all kinds of people, a free-for-all situation, and you think that there will be peace. Let me tell you, my sister, if you have a husband that has asked you to use your money, for example, to prepare soup, and after preparing the soup, he now takes a part of it and is heading to the house of his side chick. Will you be happy? You won't be. Because at the end of the day, he puts you through the pain of preparing food for him, and you expect that your husband will sit down and eat with you, and then he's taking the food to someone else. Politics is about interest. Politics is about struggle for power. And we came together as members of the PDP to campaign for him. Let me tell you, the local government chairman that he's referring to today as people whose tenures have ended and who have no place in his government, we are the people who were directors of campaign for the PDP in the last election. The man who was the director of his campaign, DG campaign, Prof. Felix Obua, is today not in talking terms with him. The chairman of the party, when he contested that election, Ambassador Desmond Akawo, is today not his pally. And the rest of us, including the RCT minister, who did everything humanly possible to make sure that he became governor, is today his enemy. And you tell me that that man should have peace? He wouldn't have peace. And he has brought, he has murdered sleep, so he will sleep no more.
All right, Mr. Frank, thank you for that. Back to Mr. Frank, rather. While there is a federal court and, state court ruling in place, and, the report of further attempt by the police to access the RCEC office a day before that election, and what has transpired afterwards, would you say the police has really put the primary concern and its constitutional responsibility of securing lives and property above other consideration in dispensing its duty in the state?
When it gets to do the River State as of today, the police is heavily compromised. They are compromised because what they are doing in Rivers is not what they are doing in every other state. And they are doing it because of just one man, but which is very wrong. The police is meant to be police for Nigerians, not police for APC or police for an individual. But today, the current Inspector General of Police have shown that it's an IGP of an arm of a particular government. It's an IGP of an arm of a minister. So it's very clear, and that is why every one person supporting the FCT minister is boasting that they are in charge of River State. That is why the FCT minister himself is doing everything he's doing today. And it's quite unfortunate that with all these atrocities, all this violence and crisis that they are causing in River State just to destabilize the governor from performing his constitutional duties in Rivers. So let me tell you, we know the end point of all of this. What they are trying to do today with the police is to cause crisis in River State, kill and arrest people that is supporting Fubara, then at the end of the day, declare state of emergency in Rivers. This is just the mathematics they are doing because they know the Rivers people today will do everything to protect the mandates of Fubara today. And they don't want that. Today, let me tell you, the FCT minister is very unpopular in Rivers State.
All right,
He's
Mr.
the most
Frank.
unpopular person today.
for your statements.
What they are doing now,
for some of the statements that you'll be making moving forward, I would like you to add the fact that it is
federal mind to destabilize the people of Rivers.
I understand what you're saying. If you can hear me,
let me tell you,
can we exercise restraint while mentioning names? Very quickly,
that's fine.
Let's just take another issue. The former president, Goodluck Jonathan, also during the week, the economic importance of Rivers State to the survival of this nation, and is also the gateway to the Niger Delta. But let's talk about how non-state actors have taken advantage of this situation. The people in Rivers State have been the one bearing the brunt of this, including how some of the House of Assembly, the local government secretariat, how they've all been burned. Talk to us about that. What's the implication on the security of the Niger Delta region?
Today, let me tell you the importance of Rivers State today that they fail to understand from the center. Rivers State is one of the big economies today in Nigeria. That if the president decides to gamble Rivers State for political reasons, the center will be the one to suffer. Because Rivers State is one of the highest oil-producing states in the Niger Delta. And that is why you see a lot of persons are disturbed. The former president is disturbed. A lot of persons are disturbed with the current issues that is going on. And I believe today, if President Bola Tinubu wanted to resolve the issues of Rivers State, he would have done it. But because he believes he's being deceived today to play politics of 2027 with Rivers State. Some people have told him, if you allow sin to be there, then you are going to lose Rivers State. So therefore, we must make Rivers State ungovernable for him.
All right.
So we can gain grounds for you to win Rivers State in 2027. So
all right.
What you are seeing playing out today in Rivers State is
2027 politics. Dr. Frank, you've made a lot of allegations today on the show, but I would have actually loved you to at least speak to the issue and to retract some of your statements about the role of the president in this. You could see earlier this year that the president actually tried to wade, into this crisis. And, the crisis continued afterwards. But talk to us about a possible solution.
Of the president when he was
a possible solution to the political crisis in that state. Let's just go with that. Dr. Frank, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, because you, as far as I'm concerned, you make statements that show that you are one of those people who stay by roadside vendors to listen to argument of people who go there to read free newspaper. And these are the kind of things that they say. You can't come here and be telling us about 2027, and be telling us about who will lose and who will win. At the end of the day, we know how we won the election in Rivers State. We campaigned, we presented to people of Rivers State what the former governor had done in Rivers State. And our mantra was consolidation and continuity. And Rivers people bought into that argument and voted overwhelmingly for the PDP. And of course, when we told them that, look, when it comes to the presidential election, don't vote for Atiku Abubakar for XYZ reasons. They also listened to us. And of course, we delivered the current president and the APC. That's the kind of power that we have as a party. That's the kind of control that we have over our state. Don't forget that the PDP has won in Rivers State consistently since 1999. Now, on the issue of the involvement of the president, it was our governor who cried to the president, possibly knelt down as he's wont to do, and called the president to please intervene in the crisis. And the president did. He invited all of us. I was there in that meeting in Abuja, and we discussed and agreed. The governor came back to the state and declared to the entire state that he was ready to implement to the letter everything that was in that agreement, and said that the agreement was not something that was not implementable, that there was no price too much for him to pay for the peace of Rivers State. A few weeks after, he did a vote fast by saying that that agreement was a mere political whatever, and that it has no constitutional backing. At that point, what do you expect the president to do? The president had to say, okay, fine, you sort out your issues. Only last week, the president, talking about the crisis that erupted after the local government election, said that we should all calm down and allow the law to decide for us, since he cannot decide for us. And as far as I'm concerned, There is no other way out of this thing, apart from the judiciary making a pronouncement on who is who and who is what in River State. And when that time comes, we'll be able to know who has the power to do what and who doesn't have. For example, the Court of Appeal has just told us
Dr. Walu.
The budget which the government of River State is running was never presented. And the governor is still going ahead spending money. When the time comes, we will know who gave him the power and the mandate to so do.
All right, Dr. Walu. So what's your thought on the appeal court ruling? The governor has been asked to represent the budget to the Martin Amamwile led House. What would this mean, considering the crisis on ground? And what really constitutes a valid assembly in this context? Is it decorum or defection?
Has asked him to do is not different from what the president asked him to do. It's not different from what Justice Omotosho asked him to do. It's not different from what we have asked him as his party men to do. Because in a democracy that is governed by principles and constitution, the law says you must present your budget to a valid assembly. Today, that valid assembly is the Martin Amamwile-led assembly. But the governor, as a serial lawbreaker, as somebody who has no regard for people and institutions, will decide it is his business. Maybe he has gone to appeal the judgment. Maybe it will get to Supreme Court. And then when the Supreme Court now says that as Martin Amamwile is the authentic speaker and the 27 other people are the legitimate assembly of River State, maybe he will appeal to God Almighty. I don't know. But for now, where we are is that the appeal court has told us very clearly, in very clear terms, who the assembly is and who the speaker is. But it is left for the governor, who is called a peacemaker, to toe the line of peace or continue in the way that he has been going. And like I said, in the end, I hear people talk about Rivers people being on his side. Who are the Rivers people that are on his side? See, we're talking about an issue that is within the PDP. It is within the PDP. It is about our mandate that he has taken now to APP. And when the time comes, all these people who have come because our governor is like that proverbial
Dr. Walu,
farmer that went to the bush and brought home.
Thank you very much. An investigation has begun into, the post-election violence in that state. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for sharing your thoughts with us. Former Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the APC, TVC Frank, and former Commissioner for Housing in Rivers State, Gift Walu. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Well, that's it on Standpoint this week. Thank you for watching. I'm Olamide Adeyemi. Bye for now.